I'm gonna say pussy whenever I feel like saying pussy.
Hey, please just knock it off.
Eat this burger, and then I'll shut up.
Chris.
I've never had a problem with you. Hey, where were you, buddy?
The movie Passenger, 2023, tells the story of two young men who couldn't be more different. One is a shy, timid guy who always gives in to everyone around him. The other is hot-headed, violent, and has no hesitation about taking someone's life. In fact, he shows all the signs of being a sociopath. Curious to see how these two end up together? Let's jump right into the story. The story begins by introducing Randy Bradley, a fast food restaurant employee who is occasionally haunted by disturbing nightmares from his childhood, although the reason behind them remains unknown. Randy is known as a kind, hardworking, and dependable person. Every morning, he wakes up before sunrise and heads straight to work. Before the restaurant opens, Randy joins the morning briefing led by the store manager alongside his 3 co-workers. Among them are Chris and Jess, a couple who are once again scolded by the manager for constantly slacking off and failing to do their jobs properly.
Get your dick out of your ear and listen when I'm talking. For fuck's sake, there's still food under the heat lamp from you closing last night.
After the meeting, the manager asks Randy to step into his office. He praises Randy's outstanding attitude and work ethic, saying he's easily the best employee on the team. Randy never argues, never complains, never shows up late, rarely misses a shift, and always does exactly what he's told without question. The manager even says he'd like to recommend Randy for a management position at another restaurant location. But here's the catch. He's not doing it out of kindness. By recommending an ideal employee, the manager knows he'll impress his own bosses and improve his chances of getting promoted. In other words, helping Randy is just a way to make himself look good. As soon as Randy leaves the office, Chris confronts him. He's convinced Randy was talking behind his back and complaining about him and Jess. Randy doesn't defend himself. He simply stands there in silence while Chris treats him with complete disrespect. Instead of getting the restaurant ready before opening, Chris wastes time fooling around. He grabs the microphone and starts flirting with Jess over the speakers, making inappropriate comments that leave everyone uncomfortable. Randy politely asks him to stop, but Chris responds by grabbing a rotten burger and tells Randy he'll quit messing around only if Randy eats it. At that moment, we're introduced to Benson, another employee who happens to be working the morning shift. Since he and Randy usually work different schedules, they rarely see each other. Watching Chris bully Randy pushes Benson to his limit. Chris even threatens Benson, warning him not to tell him what he can or can't do. Not wanting another argument to break out, Randy quietly picks up the spoiled burger and eats it just to keep the peace. Seeing Randy humiliate himself like that is too much for Benson. He walks outside to cool off. But what happens next is something no one could possibly expect. Benson opens the trunk of his car, pulls out a shotgun and starts shooting. Within seconds, Chris is dead. The manager tries to escape into his office, but Benson follows him and kills him as well. Jess is next. Benson tells her to stay calm and remain quiet, but she panics and starts screaming hysterically. Moments later, only Randy is left standing, frozen in fear and crying as he watches the horrifying scene unfold before him. For some reason, Benson decides to spare Randy. Instead of killing him, he orders Randy to help drag the bodies into the restaurant's walk-in freezer. After stacking the corpses inside, Benson wipes away the blood, cleans up the crime scene, grabs Randy's phone, and forces him into the car before driving away. During the drive, Benson calmly explains that everything was carefully planned. The town only has around 10,000 residents, and he's convinced the police will never suspect either of them. Even if someone eventually discovers the bodies in the freezer, Benson believes they'll already be hundreds of miles away by then. It's clear that Benson feels absolutely no guilt or remorse. He's a true sociopath, and somehow Randy has become trapped alongside him for reasons that are still a mystery. About 10 minutes later, Benson pulls into a small roadside cafe. Randy, too terrified to resist, quietly follows him inside. Once there, Benson suddenly starts chatting with a waitress. At first, she politely smiles and answers his questions, but his curiosity quickly turns uncomfortable. He asks her how old she is, whether she's married, if she has children, how much she earns, what her life goals are, and whether she thinks being a waitress has any real value. The questions become increasingly personal and awkward, and eventually the waitress gets annoyed, ends the conversation, and walks away. Not wanting any part of Benson's bizarre behavior, Randy finally asks the question that's been haunting him. Why did you kill my manager and my co-workers? And why am I the only one you let live? Benson simply smiles and says he wants to help Randy become a stronger person. For a long time, Benson has been watching him. In his eyes, Randy is weak, submissive, spineless, and far too willing to let people walk all over him. He believes Randy has no confidence, no identity, and no real control over his own life. That's why he chose him. Benson intends to transform Randy from a timid pushover into someone completely different, no matter how extreme the methods may be. Benson says he wants Randy to become someone who can stand up for himself instead of letting people walk all over him. After breakfast, the two of them head to Benson's house, where the only person home is his lazy, indifferent mother. Benson tells Randy to wait outside and warns him not to touch anything. While Benson is inside changing clothes, Randy notices a telephone. For a brief moment, he thinks about calling the police, but fear gets the better of him. Instead, he simply picks up the phone to hand it back to Benson's mother. Moments later, Benson returns, changes his clothes, and the two continue their journey. As they drive, Benson asks Randy if he's ever had a girlfriend or even kissed anyone. Randy admits that, at 21 years old, he's still a virgin and plans to stay that way until he's married. He did have a girlfriend about 2 years ago, but she suddenly broke up with him after her pet cat died. Confused, Benson asks what a dead cat has to do with ending a relationship. Randy quietly replies that he doesn't know. His ex just told him it was over, and he accepted it without even asking why. Hearing that, Benson can't believe what he's listening to. He feels sorry for Randy, who spent his entire life accepting whatever people do to him without ever standing up for himself. Determined to change that, Benson decides to take Randy to see his ex-girlfriend and finally get the answer he never had the courage to ask. They arrive at a stuffed animal shop inside a shopping mall where Randy's ex now works. Since she's on the clock, Benson and Randy pretend to be customers so they can talk to her. Randy chooses a stuffed crocodile to customize, while Benson picks a giraffe and deliberately sits a short distance away. Eventually, Randy finally asks the question that's been bothering him for 2 years. His ex explains that she didn't leave because of the cat. She says she simply grew tired of Randy's personality. He was emotionally distant, painfully quiet, completely closed off, and acted as if nothing in the world mattered to him, not even the death of her beloved pet. Now that Randy finally has the truth, Benson tells him there's no reason to chase after someone who never appreciated him. The two leave the store and head back toward the car. On the way, Randy's phone starts ringing. It's his mother. Randy is used to her constant worrying, but even for someone his age, she seems overly controlling. She always wants to know where he is, who he's with, and exactly what time he'll be home. Listening to the conversation, Benson realizes that Randy isn't just pushed around by strangers. He's also being controlled inside his own home. A little later, Randy opens up about something he's never told anyone before. When he was in elementary school, he had to repeat a grade because of a traumatic accident that has haunted him ever since. Back then, he and his classmates used to play a game where they flicked erasers across their desks using their fingers, almost like shooting marbles. One day, Randy was the only student caught. Feeling it was unfair that only he was being punished, the young Randy lost his temper and flicked an eraser as hard as he could. The eraser struck his teacher directly in the eye. The injury was so severe that she permanently lost her vision in that eye. To make things even worse, she had been one of the most admired teachers at the school, and Randy has spent years believing that he destroyed not only her appearance but also her future. Benson is shocked. He never imagined that quiet, timid Randy had once been capable of such an explosive outburst. At that moment, everything finally makes sense. Ever since that accident, Randy has believed that expressing anger only hurts innocent people. He became terrified of making decisions because he feared every choice he made would lead to disaster. That's why he grew into someone who never fights back, never argues, never speaks up, and simply accepts whatever others do to him, even if they're bullying or controlling him. Seeing how deeply guilt has shaped Randy's life, Benson decides to confront the past head-on. He drives to Randy's old elementary school, determined to find the teacher whose life was changed by that incident. Randy desperately tries to stop him, afraid he'll cause even more trouble. But just like always, he gives in instead of resisting. Inside the school office, Benson tells the staff that he and Randy are former students who want to say goodbye to their old teacher before moving away. Feeling sorry for them, the staff agrees to give them her home address. While the address is being written down, another teacher named Mr. Pard enters the office, preparing to leave for the day. Without warning, Benson asks if he taught 3rd grade years ago. The teacher looks confused and says he doesn't recognize him. Benson simply replies, "That's right, you don't." As soon as the teacher walks outside, Benson follows him. Seconds later, he brutally attacks him. He beats the man nearly unconscious and even points a gun at his head. Fortunately, Randy rushes in and manages to stop Benson before he pulls the trigger. The two quickly flee the scene. During the drive, Benson apologizes for losing control. He admits that seeing the teacher brought back memories that made him furious. On the way, Benson apologizes for what happened. Seeing Mr. Pard brought back painful memories from elementary school when the teacher used to punish him by making him run laps around the school for not doing his homework. Once again, we're reminded that Benson is a sociopath. He has very little empathy and can become violently offended over the smallest things, just like what happened a few minutes ago. A short while later, they arrive at the home of Randy's former teacher, Mrs. Bird. She now wears an eye patch over the eye Randy accidentally injured years ago. To Randy's complete surprise, she's genuinely happy to see him. The moment she realizes who he is, she warmly hugs him. Wanting to give them some privacy, Benson excuses himself and heads to the bathroom. With tears in his eyes, Randy apologizes for what happened all those years ago. Even though he was just a child, he still believes he ruined Mrs. Bird's life. She was once known as one of the most beautiful teachers in the school, and now she has to wear an eye patch because of him. But Mrs. Bird doesn't see it that way. She gently tells Randy that she's forgiven him a long time ago. He was only a child who acted without thinking, and she believes that everything happens for a reason. She doesn't blame him anymore and doesn't want him carrying that guilt for the rest of his life. For the first time in years, Randy finally hears the words he's needed all along. While Mrs. Bird goes into the kitchen to grab some snacks, Randy quickly takes her phone from the table. Just then, Benson comes back from the bathroom. As they're about to leave, Mrs. Bird receives a call from the school. The staff informs her that Mr. Pard was brutally attacked shortly after two former students visited the school. Worse still, he died on the way to the hospital. Realizing the police may already be connecting the dots, Benson immediately panics. Instead of running away, he forces Mrs. Bird into the car and takes her with them. During the drive, Randy finally decides he's had enough. Pretending he needs to use the restroom, he secretly plans to call the police using Mrs. Bird's phone. The three of them stop at the same cafe Benson and Randy visited earlier that day. Randy rushes into the restroom and quietly calls 911, giving the dispatcher the cafe's location and asking officers to come immediately. When he returns to the table, the waitress from earlier recognizes Benson. She's still upset over the rude and deeply personal questions he asked her that afternoon. Unfortunately, confronting someone like Benson turns out to be a terrible mistake. Without warning, Benson pulls out his gun and shoots her in the leg. He then points the weapon at everyone inside the cafe, including Randy. Moments later, police sirens can be heard outside. Benson immediately assumes Mrs. Bird must have called the police. He fires a shot in anger, but the bullet accidentally hits Randy in the shoulder. Despite everything that's happened, Benson instinctively rushes over and tries to stop the bleeding. That's when Randy finally confesses. He admits that he was the one who called the police. Benson slowly lets go. The look on his face says it all. For the first time, he truly feels betrayed. He believed Randy was the only person he could trust, the only one who understood him. Even though Benson is capable of terrible violence, he's still human enough to feel disappointment. Instead of killing Randy, he simply gives up. With no one left he can trust, Benson surrenders himself to the police and chooses to end his own life in his own way. The end.